Hello everyone and welcome to another first look, and this time at the Just Flight Fokker 100. Also paired with the Fokker 70, which is the little shorter version. We're looking at the 100 today. But shout out to Just Flight for sending me over a pre-release copy so we could check this out and see what this aircraft is all about before it releases. Should be releasing in the next several days from what I understand, so we'll see if that holds. A little caveat to what you're going to see today: this is a pre-release copy, so there are things that we may experience or see today that may not present in the final product. There could be some bugs that will be fixed before the final release. There may be some features that aren't quite whatever before the final release, so just know this is a pre-release copy, but we are very close, so this should be pretty close to what you get on release day from Just Flight, and they do a fantastic job. So we're going to start perfectly. First of all, just looking at the model and the outside of the airplane. We're in kind of an external chase mode. We're here at Burbank Airport, and we're going to be flying this thing up to Oakland today. And whoa, the nose wheels. I was wondering why the nose wheel was kind of buried there in the asphalt, and apparently it just released itself and kind of sputtered up, but that's fine. So we take a look at the aircraft. Again, if you're familiar with the Fokker 28, which we've had from Just Flight for a while now, it's very similar in look, albeit a little bit bigger. At least the 100 anyway is. It's got different engines. These are the Rolls-Royce Tay engines, and so a little bit more powerful. They also have thrust reverser buckets on them. We didn't have any thrust reversers on the F28. We do still have the speed brake back here. Most of us affectionately refer to this as the butt flap. And so, but it operates quite a bit differently than it did in the F28. So if you're used to using that in the F28, you will have to kind of relearn a little bit. I see that I did not. Now this thing gave me a GSX profile, and I just kind of went with whatever it gave me just now. I haven't loaded that GSX profile, so it has put air stairs at a door that does not exist on this particular model. I believe there is a version of the 100 because you have like 4 of them. One with a sliding door, integral stairs, I think a rear door in addition, and so I think that's what it's seeing there. So we're just going to ignore little weird things like that for now, because I'm trying to get this out before the end of the weekend, because my weekend has been slammed, and so trying to do this before I have to go back to work on Monday. So we're going to just ignore that a little bit. But anyway, so we got thrust reversers there. The model just is absolutely beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. And it is native to 2024. There's going to be a 2020 version as well. This is obviously the 2024 version, so you can do the walk around with it. There's click spots. You can interact with the doors. You can open the cargo hatches. You can even interact with the external power door here, and it'll open and call the external power cart for you. Just by doing that, so kind of cool things. You're hearing a little bit of clicking noise right now. That is from the engine slowly turning in the nacelles. And if you've been around jet engines for any amount of time, you'll know that when they do windmill like this, they do clickety-clack a little bit, and that's because a lot of things. There's some stuff in the main fans that have a little bit of play to them. You want that so that as they're spinning up and going really, really fast, things can have room to expand a little bit. And so when they're sitting at very low speed like this and cold, they will clickety-clack. So that is normal. It's not a rusted engine or anything to be afraid of. That is perfectly normal. Let's go ahead and head inside the flight deck, shall we? And see what we can see over here. So once again, I'm going to kind of step back here a little bit and give you kind of an overview of the flight deck. If you remember the F28, obviously very analog. We are much more digital now, and so we've got a number of CRT screens. Our overhead is a whole bunch of buttons. You might remember from the F28, we had a bunch of kind of valve guys that would move with the valve position, which was super cool, but also kind of very analog and very old school. So none of that. It's very refined now. Much more akin to a kind of an Airbus style cockpit, or even an MD-11. In fact, in dealing with the FMCs here, if you're used to the FMCs on the MD-11, you will feel right at home, and a lot of the overhead panel will feel like that too. So it's kind of a mix between the the original kind of Airbus. So think Airbus A300 digital style, kind of mixed in the MD-11 kind of style, which they all kind of share some influences, I feel, based on how they're designed. So, but yeah. Yeah, so it's a very nice, very clean cockpit. The lighting in here, and we'll see this, it's 6, I've got it set to 6 o'clock right now. So as the sun goes down, we will get to see some of the lighting in the cockpit, and it looks very, very nice. In the cabin, of course, we have some very nicely modeled cabin areas, including a little galley here, the service doors. These doors are all actionable, so you can click here, and that will unlock, and then if you click the handle, it will open the door. And this is just GSX impinging on the aircraft. Ignore that nonsense. And then to close again, you just grab that handle right there, click, and it will start the closing process, and then you have to lock the door. Now, if you have some assistances turned on in here, flight attendants will actually manually open and close those doors as part of the boarding and deboarding process, so you don't need to worry about that. Cabin is very nicely modeled. The overhead bins do not open, if you're curious, but when the power's on, you will see the no smoking and seatbelt signs up top lit up as per the switch position in the cockpit. So when you turn the seatbelt sign on, the seatbelt signs in the cabin do come on, and same thing with the no smoking sign. So there is a lav at the very back, not modeled, so the door doesn't open, you can't go in. If you try to go through the wall, you're just out in space. So no model lav, not a big deal. I don't know why you'd be caring about going to the restroom anyway. You're going to be up in the cockpit. So some more flight attendant stations here, and then a little bit more of galley storage and stuff. And then this is the non-op lab, which again, if you walk through, hey, look, there's an engine nacelle. Oh no. So we don't want to deal with that. So, but again, very nicely modeled. Got some magazines in the back. Looks like American Way and a safety card, which is pretty awesome. This is the American variant of the Fokker 100. There comes with a number of liveries, including American, America West, KLM, City Hopper, some British Airways stuff, and a number of other liveries. And of course, then I'm sure once this thing does release, the painters will go nuts, and we'll have tons of liveries available on things like flightsim.to. So you'll have plenty of options. Just some housekeeping items, some quality of life items in the flight deck here. So you do have the EFB, the tablet. It defaults to down here, but if you click on the top here, you can move it up to the top. And by clicking on the bottom again here, you can move it back. So wherever you feel fit to have it. I noticed that at least in the chase plane default profile that came with it, the EFB position was not technically in either of those spots. It was kind of like over here, and so, which was odd. I would figure it would be one of those spots, but go figure. And that could just be a chase plane goof. Who knows? So I don't think it matters. Anything else in the flight deck that I want to make you aware of off the top? I don't know that there is. Because lighting is always a thing, and again, we don't really need it right now because the lights are on, but just to point out a few key locations for some lighting that has been tripping people up right off the bat. We have a main lighting panel right here, and it's even got a nice diagram that shows you what kind of section of the panel that it's lighting up. This is mostly for panel lighting and backlighting. Your screens will default to all turned off because they're CRT, so that would have been part of the plan to make sure to turn those off at the end of a flight. And those are found here. So you got your PFD and ND lights to brighten those guys up right there. Same thing on the first officer panel. And then these guys down here are found on these two dimmer switches right here as part of the status and the TRP, the thrust rating panel, or whatever that stands for again. So those are there. Just be aware of that. And another thing that the F-28 had that this might trip some people up is the guts lock, or the flight lock lever right here. The thrust levers will only go so far up when that thing is on, and obviously your controls will be locked out. So you always want to make sure we're turn that off before you go flying, or you'll go down the runway and wonder why you're not getting a lot of speed, because your lock is on. So also some things to be aware of. Cabin lights are all controlled right here from this panel. So these are the on switches for them, and then this switches from bright to dim on all of them. So on, off, bright, dim for the entrance, the side panels, the ceiling, and the toilet area, and a button to reset the reading lights. So you have that right there. You do have some galley stuff that you can control. We'll talk about this once we have power in the airplane, and probably do a little bit of this in cruise. There are some fun little things to talk about there. Also some music control for the boarding music. And there is a lav here too. I almost forgot. It's hidden by the cockpit door. But again, also not modeled. You just walk right through it. So just FYI. So there's a forward lav. There's back lav. And, or at least in the 100. I'm not sure if the forward lav is in the 70. That may be missing in the 70. I don't remember. So anywho, all right, well, let's get right down to it. This is a first look. I have not completed a flight in this aircraft. I did just get it powered up and take it off and do a pattern and land it really fast just to make sure I could do stuff. And then that was all the time I had, and I've been kind of reading through the manual and trying to understand kind of the system. So I think I have a fairly good grasp on this aircraft. I mean, I'm very familiar with the F-28, and so I think that's going to give me kind of a nice basis for this, and some of the idiosyncrasy differences between the F-28 and the F-170. So yeah, we're going to be going from Burbank to Oakland. I'm going to walk you through. I went through the kind of the tutorial, not doing the tutorial, but just reading through it, and I was able to extrapolate kind of a procedure or a flow that I have tweaked ever so slightly just for a few quality of life things. And so we're going to go through that and do that flow in that order. So assuming we just came on this airplane, we just opened the door, and we haven't done anything yet, this is where we're going to start right here. So this is not a tutorial per se, because I haven't run this enough to be able to tell you, yeah, do it this way. But this should be good enough to down and dirty to get you started. Tutorial will be coming later from me once I have a number of flights under my belt and I feel like I really know the aircraft. So, but even still, I think this might be good enough for most of you to get going. So, with that, first thing, safety check. That is as simple as making sure the gear lever is down and making sure the fuel cutoff switches are cut off. After that, we go right to the battery. So the battery switch is right here on the overhead panel. And so, in fact, while we're here at the overhead panel, let me just do an overview of this real fast, then we'll continue. So you have some avionics master switches here. And the way this panel works is lights out, meaning lights out good, lights on, alert, or a very special switch that you need to know is on, so that way it lights and says on. So if it's dark, you can assume that it's on or ready or good normal position. Otherwise, if you click it, it'll probably default to a white light that says off, and then you know it's off. Right now, everything's going to be showing off because I have no power yet, but so let's go through this. So avionics, some switches here. You have a flight augmentation. This is the computers that are kind of helping drive the airplane. You have your auto throttle system 1 and 2, yaw damper 1 and 2, stab trim 1 and 2, and then rudder limiter right there. Actually, rudder limiter and I think this is the speed brake or something. Hydraulic panel underneath it. Fairly self-explanatory. You have a couple electric pumps. You have the engine-driven pumps, obviously, and something like that and stuff like that. So that is there. Right below that, you have wiper controls. You also have some call buttons. So forward, ground, attendant, call buttons, wiper, seat belts, and no smoking signs are right here as well. As we go over to the next panel, we have our flight recorder, cockpit voice recorder rather, a test panel, which is mostly for well, a lot of it is for fire tests, but there's some other stuff in here too, like the GPWS test and some other things. So test panel right here, we'll just call that generic test panel. Engine fire switch number 1 is right below that. Below that is our electrical panel. So DC and AC electrical panel is right here. Below that, anti-icing. Below that is exterior lighting. So you think your landing lights, taxi lights, strobe lights, beacon lights, all that. Coming to the top, we have our IRS switches. So, align, nav, that whole thing. Below that is the cargo smoke panel and passenger oxygen underneath that. Then engine number 2 fire handle. Fuel panel is right below there. Engine starter panel is below the fuel. And then below the engine start is our pressurization panel right here. And then finally, over on the other side, we have our APU fire panel, air conditioning, so pressurization and air conditioning, and then probe heats and probe window heats right here. And then below that, we got another wiper section, emergency lights, and this one took me a while to find when I was looking for the APU. This is where you turn the APU on and off at right there. So APU fire and APU test, APU fire, APU control. Kind of goofy on that one. I feel like I would have clustered that a little bit more. At least put that like up here. I don't know. But that's the one thing that I'm like, really? Okay, fine. As we come down, we'll just kind of continue going through the cockpit overview here real fast. We've got the tiller down here. We have an oxygen mask for the captain, smoke goggles. And by the way, this is a click spot to get rid of the yoke right there. And I believe clicking on this guy, yes. So clicking on the microphone gets rid of the tablet. So you have tablet remove and yoke remove right there. And I believe it is the same on the other side. Indeed, it is. There you go. Right, coming down onto the main panel, obviously we have a chronograph or a clock. We've got the PFD, the ND, standby instruments, so horizon, speed, altitude, and then you've got your RMI right here. A little flip chart of V speeds, which is pretty cool. It looks like it's held on with a little clip. You have a secondary instrument indicator, which I find very helpful because it's easier to read this than some of the indicators on the screens. So this I usually will turn on. Auto brake right next to it. You've got your engine and status, various status screens right down here. Gear lever right there in the middle. Gear indicator lights right below. Big old warning panel. All the enunciators are right there. Some speed limitation placards. And then over on the FO side, we have another chronometer. We've got brake pressure indicators right here. Actually, sorry, wait. Brake temperatures, it looks like, is what this is, actually. Yes, sorry, not brake pressure, brake temperatures. This is going to be your probably brake pressure right here. PSI. This is probably the brake reservoir or the oh, the word is escaping me, but I'll think of it later. And then this is a fuel, I'm guessing a totalizer, it looks like, maybe. So yeah, I think your normal fuel indications are going to be actually up here. You're going to see pounds right here and stuff. I believe this is a totalizer, and this is showing in kilograms. This gauge may not change. I have the airplane set up in pounds at the moment, but that may be a gauge that doesn't change with that. And it may be a bug. Maybe that's supposed to change and they haven't caught that. Who knows? And then obviously the first officer's PFD, ND, and then his RMI over there. You also, on either side of the captain and first officer's instruments, you have these little selectors. This will change certain information that's on these screens, so be aware of that if you need those. Obviously, you have tablets on both sides. Coming down the main pedestal, we've got our FMSs or FMCs or MCDUs, whatever you want to call them for this airplane. Altimeter settings are on a big separate thing, so you do not set them. I mean, you do set the standby here, but this is primarily where you set the altimeters. And I think, yes, it does change your standby too. You can't see anything here because I don't have any power, but you can just do it all right here. It'll change the standby and on the screens. In the center here is the IRS display unit. A lot of times like on the 737, this is up by the nav switches, but in this case, they put it down here for some reason. You don't really need to mess with this, but it's there. The lights we talked about earlier for the various panels. Below each of the FMCs, you have a radio panel for the captain and first officer. Below that, on the captain's side, parking brake, stab trim indicator, anti-switch switch, flight deck door lock, and takeoff configuration check. This obviously big wheel here is your stab trim. It is controlled electronically from the captain and first officer's yoke. There's also an alternate switch here to control that. This is the speed brake handle, which is a 2-position switch now. It is no longer a range like we have with the other butt flap. So it is either fully deployed or fully not, at least from here. I'm not sure, like I said, I've only taken this up once. I'm not sure if the aircraft augments how much it extends based on the aircraft speed, which is what we had in the F-28. There are some other limitations for when this deploys, and we'll get into that later. The thrust levers are right here with the reverser handles, and just so you are aware, right here are the toga switches that pull up, and so you can assign these either to a using the Microsoft default controls. Obviously, I'm using SPAD and have assigned them as such, but there's also right here this screw acts as a shortcut for the toga switches. So if you need the toga switches and you don't have them mapped, you don't want to try and get into that click spot there, that little screw right there is your key to toga. Flap handle, alternate flap node right there. You've got flaps 0, 8, 15, 25, and 42. And then right here you have the stick pusher pull to disconnect. So if the stick pusher decides to stick over and you do not want to go over, then pull that. On the pedestal below, we've got our comm radios, 1 and 2, so the VHF radios for ATC. An interesting choice is that below that is the ADF radios. This is where you tune NDBs. And they put the VORs way down here at the bottom. I would have thought you would have done comm VOR, as you would think VOR would be much more common than ADF, especially by the time this thing came out. But hey, you know, maybe not. Maybe not in Europe. I don't know. This is built by Europeans. VHF, ADF, you've got weather radar here, and then VOR1. This is your TRP, your thrust rating panel, or something that stands for, but it's to handle the thrust. But also on this side is your statuses for engine display, status, APU, things like that. You can also cancel and recall switches right there for the various alerts. This advanced switch, if there's a problem, if there's a system failure or something, kind of like an Airbus, will give you some kind of steps to follow, and this will step through those, so you can kind of change the arrow of what step you're on, and that's what that is for. So, like I said, these knobs right here are the brightness indicators, brightnesses for these two screens right here. Also, your FMCs will default to very dim as well, and again, there's those little white knob is your dimmer switch for those. FO side is basically the same thing. It's COM2, ADF2. In place of weather radar, we have the HF COM, and then VOR2 right below that. And in the middle, below the TRP, we have our transponder and then the ILS head. So if you're familiar with the 7576 cockpit, you're used to having a separate frequency for ILS than you do for VOR. And the Fokker 170 is no different. So don't try and tune your ILS into your VOR nav. You need to put it in its own ILS radio head right there. And in the back, we've got our rudder trim, our aileron trim, the gust lock or the flight control lock, and this is the alternate landing gear control. So you pull to extend the alternate landing gear. Fire extinguisher, if you're getting in a really bad situation. You also have the this guy back here, which is the jump seat. So there you go, and then clicking on the little levers will stow said jump seat right back to where it goes. Very, very cool. You got a crash axe back here. You've got the oxygen for the pilot and co-pilot that you can turn on or turn off. And the breakers, which I don't believe are... Oop, maybe some of them are modeled. Or I'm interacting with something on the other side, because there's some stuff over here I can interact with. So I don't think for the most part the breakers are modeled. I think they're basically just there. So yeah, there is your overview. So okay, let's go back and start from scratch. We now that we got that out of the way, figure we should do that. So safety check: gear down, fuel switches cut off. Next we go to a battery switch right here on the electrical panel. Battery on. We're gonna go to volts and put it to battery. We need to make sure when we turn this on that we have 24 volts or better on the battery, and we do 28. The battery does not last very, very long, though, so we need to get a source of permanent power, and that is either going to be the ground power, or it is going to be an APU. So just like the tutorial, we're going to go straight to the APU. But if you did use external power, that switch is right here, and the APU switch is right here. Now we have power on. The APU switch is actually in the on position, so as soon as the APU kicks in, it will automatically supply power, full power, to the airplane. So to do the APU, though, we need to do a APU fire test first. And so we come up here to the test panel, and we're going to hold the APU. We can see that fire light up over there. And I think without any other power, I think that's all we get is the firelight. We don't get an audible signal. We would get that if the we get the warnings here and we get the firelight there. And so then it goes out. It's clear. That's good. Now, there's a couple switches that are like this. The APU is one of them. If I go to turn this, there's on, and I'm rolling my mouse to continue to turn, nothing's happening. I can click, nothing happens. This switch has to be pulled out and then moved to turn. So if so the idea is you click the center of it, pop out, and now you can turn it to start. And it will begin the startup process. So let's go out over here so we can hear APU sounds starting. Because sounds are part of the airplane that are really good here. Very nice, very nice. All right. And you can hear noises in here. Other lights have kicked on, and you can see a little glow on the FMCs. That's because we're on APU power. You notice there's no light here because, again, light out means good. So if I was to click this, this would, first of all, everything would come off, and you'd see a little off thing right there. How we know the APU is fully running is we have the available light on the APU right there, and that's good. So with that running, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the IRS align. So we're going to come up to the top here. And this is another one of those switches where it's not going to go beyond the align section without popping them out. So click and move, click and move. Just go straight to nav, and they will still be in a line. They need to align anyway, but that'll happen. All right. We're going to come down to the FMC now because we need to give the IRSs a position so they can align. So we're going to go to init, and we're going to tell it where we're going first of all. So we're going to say KBUR to KOAK. I'm going to stick that right there. This is looking for company plans. We don't have any, so we're just going to say return. And now we can see Align IRS. Now what we need to do though is what it's doing is it's finding the Burbank lat long rather, which is right here, which may not be very close to where we are depending on the size of the airport. Now Burbank's pretty small, so this may be pretty dang accurate. So I'm going to come over and look at the chart for Burbank. And I know you can't see this at the moment. Parking gates and coordinates. Okay. So what we're looking for, we're at Alpha 2, and Alpha 2 says North 3411.8. This says 3412.0. So we'd like to update that. And the same thing for the longitude is, or latitude rather, is west, no, longitude, yeah. West 118, 21.1. 118.21. This one's a little closer, but let's go ahead and I think you can just use, let me see, let me click on this. Yeah, so we can just do this because we can refine this. So it's 11.8. So there we go, 34.11.8. That's set. See how they have the up downs right there? And then if we click on this side, we get the up downs over here, and we're looking for 118.21.1. So we're going to put that down arrow. Whoops. Or the other way, apparently. 21.1. There we go. And now they're good, and we can hit Align IRS. And now it will align. And I think I may have it set to fast align, so it's probably going to go like almost instantly. That takes 10 seconds. If you have it in normal or realistic, it could take up to 15 minutes. So, you know, you may have also heard the whoosh of air suddenly kicking on as well. And that's because the pack switches are on by default. The APU will not let any bleed air go until it hits a 2-minute mark for it to run for a little bit, and then it'll automatically start supplying bleed air. We can see it's displaying 26 psi of bleed air through its system to the packs. So, and you can hear it, so we know that's working now. So we got bleed air going, and we have good electricity going as well. All right, so now we've got the IRS as aligning. The FNC position is done. Next thing is emergency lights. We're going to set the emergency lights to armed right there. We're going to set our exterior lights, which for us at the moment is really just the nav lights on. Anytime you got power on the airplane, you want to have those nav lights on. And then this is one where I made a little jump in the panel because this comes a lot later in their thing, and I think that makes no sense. And that is setting up all your panel lights. So at this point, I would come down here and I would set up all of our various panel lights. And I'm just going to turn everything to about noon for the moment. Again, it's daytime, so it's not really a big deal. But that way, when it does start to get dark, these will kick on. But see how there's the background panel lights. We can also do the flood up to there as well. Dome light, flood on-off button is right there. And then I'm also going to do, while I'm here, the PFD and ND. And since it's day, we'll go full bright, and then I'll fix them if I need them less. So ND, PFD, and then back here, we'll kick these guys up. And that means all of our screens now are booted up. And you can see we're aligned because this isn't blank. That is just a little tad bright. So let me see where I want that. That's kind of good right there. Where is that notch at? No idea. It's not really a notch on that one. There we go. Those kind of look the same. All right. So that's my my main edit is moving the panel lights and stuff there. Next we go to an oxygen test. So to test the oxygen, we just hit this test reset. And we're looking for that little bit of little cat's eye kind of sticking out there, and hear the oxygen go. Then we have a smoke test. That is up here on the overhead panel. And we have, there's the smoke test. Let it go. And that's a good test. We get the lights warnings. We get the alerts there. We would see stuff here too, but I'm not going to move the mouse around too much. The anti-skid test is done... Probably, let's see, is that up here too? Oh yeah, it is. And we're really just looking for that anti-skid light right there. And it goes away. And then we have a GPWS test. This was supposed to hold down for 5 seconds for the full test to run. So 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005.
Glide slope.
Bingo.
Pull up.
And it's going to start
Sink
doing
rate.
GPWS.
Pull up. Terrain. Pull up. Don't sink. Don't sink. Too low. Terrain. Too low. Gear. Too low. Flaps. Too low. Terrain. Glide slope. Bank angle. Bank angle.
Minimums 500, 100, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Too low. Terrain. Caution. Terrain. Caution. Terrain. Caution. Terrain. Caution. Terrain. 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 Pull up. Caution. Obstacle. Caution. Obstacle. Caution. Obstacle. Caution. Obstacle. 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 Pull up.
Alright, I think it's done. Now, the last one here is a WARN system test. And full disclosure, I'm not 100% sure what that is. So, that's the one thing I did. Oh, no, it's right there. Never mind. And so it's just running through. Look at that. It's lighting up a whole bunch of different things. And making sure those WARN lights are all working. It's almost like an annunciator light test, but it's doing them one at a time. That's really interesting. I wonder if it gives you like a status at the end, like, oh yeah, so it'll tell us if it fails. That's kind of cool. So WARN system in test. I'm assuming when it's done, it will go, yeah, no, there was a problem, or WARN system test pass. The other thing we want to do is the FDR CVR button goes on, and I'm thinking that is up here somewhere. Yeah, there it is. So we want to make sure that guy goes on. So that's one of these. So every once in a while you have some that are lit up in the on position. There we go. Complete green. I'm guessing that's good. And it doesn't say there, so it just says, yeah, that just goes green complete. So there you go. That is the WARN system test done. Yay, I learned something. And then voice recorder test right above it. We just hold that green button. We watch for the needle. And generally you would hold that a little bit and make sure it doesn't deflect, and then let that go. All right, and then finally, before this is the last like prep step, and that is the pack signs. So right now, no smoking. You could turn seatbelt signs on, but if you're going to refuel still, you leave this off. So we're just verifying the no smoking light is on, and it is. So in fact, if we go back into the flight deck or the cabin, we can see that we don't have seatbelts, but we do have the no smoke lit up. So there we go. That is all working. All right, so that is kind of the pre-flight check of the cockpit. Now we move on to loading the aircraft. So we're going to move on to over here. Now I've already done a SimBrief flight plan, and I believe in settings, yeah, I've already got my SimBrief pilot ID in there, so you want to make sure that's there. You can choose the theme of the background here a little bit, so if you like gray, white, bright things, if you're kind of a crazy person. I'm more of a dark mode guy, but I do like this kind of like navy blue kind of look, so I'm going with that. And so yeah, but to do this, then we're gonna go to OFP, and so there's another place say, hey, enter your SimBrief ID. We're gonna say continue, and here we go. So we've got our route, Burbank to Oakland. It's all in here. We're doing the Rosie 2, Carez, Argood, and the Emzo 4 into Oakland runway 30. Planning to take off runway 15. Cost index 10 apparently. I forgot to go in and mess with this. I'll go ahead and do it today, but normally, actually, I'll probably just go ahead and set it anyway to 50. I'm thinking 50 is going to be probably what I'm going to use, but I need to experiment around. With Airbus, I usually use 50. With Boeings, I use 80. This feels kind of Airbus-y to me, so probably use 50. Again, I'm not paying for the fuel, so who cares? We got a 307-mile distance. Total block fuel is going to be 11,822 pounds. Cruising altitude 32,000 feet. So that's all we need to do there, just to pull that in. But we're going to go to aircraft, and we're going to import the SimBrief OFP. So it's going to pull in the various weights, 92 passengers, all that jives. And so there's a couple different things we can do. We can refuel, we can load, and I forget what this last weirdo little guy is. But it says waiting for refueling. So you can choose some different options here. You can say instant refuel. You can say realistic. Or you can tell it, 5-minute refuel, 10-minute refuel, 20-minute refuel, whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and go with realistic. That'll just kind of slowly fill the tanks. They're not empty anyway, so it'll take a little while, but we got other stuff to do. So we're going to say start refueling. And it's going to start refueling. So this is great because if you don't have any GSX stuff, you can still kind of get the feel that things are happening dynamically and not like just instant, which kind of breaks the immersion, as we like to say in Flight Sim. But you can see already we're already almost to 10% with our refueling. Let's go down to the loading process, and we have the same kind of deal here. Now, I believe, let's see here. I haven't looked through these yet. Okay, so did I? Oh yeah. So if you were to check GSX handling, there would be a GSX option in there. I have that unchecked right now just because I haven't messed with the GSX configs. So we're just going to do this as if we're not using GSX, even though they're out there. We're going to use them for pushback. But so we're going to do again realistic on the boarding. The jet type is the stairs, so we got that there. And yeah, just set in stairs, and we're going to say start boarding. And it turns on some funky music. Funky, funky music. Now, I'm going to turn this down because I heard... I'm going to keep it very, very low. Someone mentioned that they've had some copyright issues on YouTube with the music, so I don't want to risk a. I'm not really concerned about a strike because I don't think that would happen, but they might demonetize me, and that kind of negates the point of doing YouTube. So, anywho, so that's all going. So they're boarding and they are refueling. You can see the pack's total right now 4, and that will slowly increase as the boarding progresses. The fuel is progressing, and we can kind of leave this be for the time being. So the next step after the boarding is to load the FMC. So now we're going to turn our focus here. Now, as this stage, you would want to have called ATC and gotten your clearance if you are on VATSIM or using something like, say, Intentions or something, because if they're going to change your flight plan, ideally you want to get that changed before you program everything in. we're not going to be on ATC today. We're just doing our own thing. So our flight plan is, you know, what it is. So starting on this page, we already have done our to and from. We're going to put our alternate in, though, if you have one, and I'm sure we do, because it always gives me an alternate. And sure enough, SMF, which is Sacramento, is our alternate. So we're going to do KSMF for the alternate. Cost index, I'm going to go ahead and do 50, because we'll have plenty of fuel. There's no weather in California. I don't need to worry about diverting. Cruise flight level, I'm going to go out in faith here and just put 320 and see if it likes that. It may want me to spell it out. Nope, it took it. Good deal. And then you could also put your cruise wind down here to give it some more information. So I'm going to go into SimBrief and look up. It says 253 at 30 is the average wind. So we're going to go 253 at 30 and put that in there. And then you could also see we have a temp here at top climb and the tropopause. So I don't really care about the tropopause as much, but that minus 48 temp might be important, considering I'm seeing an ISO deviation of plus 14. So I'm going to look at my flight plan and look at the temperature at top climb, and that's telling me minus 39. So I am going to edit that a little bit. So I'm going to say minus 39. Whoops. That's not the minus key, that's the slash key. Minus 39. And I'm going to put the slash so it knows I'm not talking about the tropo. And do that. There we go. Minus 39. That's how we edit that. Alright, see that little arrow right there? That means we proceed to the next page. And on the next page... Oh, one more thing back here. Sorry, I'm going to go back. Right here, this is where you do your flight number. So if you had a company route, it would be in the front of this. The flight number goes there, so we're going to do the slash. I always fly a 683. So that would be American 683. We're just going to put 683 there. Again, you don't need to do that, but, you know, immersion. Alright, initialization. So block fuel, zero fuel weight, takeoff weight, and other things here. So for this, right now it's saying fuel on board 11.82, which I feel like that is our thing. So did they finish fueling us? Oh, they did. Look at that. Fueling is done. Cool. So we can look at our flight plan here. Well, so first of all, we can do the fuel. So we'll put 11.8, because you got to round this. 11.8. And then zero fuel weight, according to our flight plan, is 74.658, which would be 74.7. We round up. So 74.7 on the zero fuel. And it's saying cruise altitude invalid. We're going to ignore that nonsense. It's thinking our max is 350, which is fine because we're doing 3.2. So I don't know why it thinks that's invalid. It's kind of weird. But we're going to go with it. So we'll come back to this after we're finished. Well, actually, no, because we told it zero fuel weight and fuel on board. So those numbers are correct. It knows those. And so it's filled in a number of other information there. We don't need to worry about that. We can go to the next page, which is just back to the init. And that's done. So next step is to go to flight plan and put in our flight plan. So from Burbank, looked at the weather already. We're going to be taking runway 15. So we're going to SID runway 15. And we're doing the Erosi 2. And that is... There's no transition. So it's the Erosi 2 15, and that's it, apparently. So, I think, anyway. Transition... Yeah. Oh, there we go. Now, I was going to say, there's got to be, because there's two different versions of this. We're doing a Corez. There we go. Insert that. And you can see stuff showing up on the ND now. We'll go in the plan and check that when we're all done. Right, so that's going to go down to Corez, and then we go to RGood. G-O-O-D. Put that in discontinuity. And then that is the beginning of the MSO 4. So Oakland, we go star, and we're going to say ILS 30. We're doing MSO 4 from RGood. And we'll insert that. And that's going to ask if we want to transition from the star to the approach on fist or my shin. And I think it's my shin? Yeah, it's my shin. So, because fist doesn't connect to the, doesn't connect. So we'll want my shin, and there we go. And we can cruise down there and make sure it looks good. Now we have 2 R goods in there, so we're gonna, nope, we're not gonna do that. We're going to clear the discontinuity, and it's gonna sync those up. So R good, Esmo, and it's done. Beautiful. Now, an interesting little quirk of the F100 and the F70 is if you have an altitude constraint that is an adder, you know, like a between. So you have, obviously you've got a adder below, you've got an adder above, you can have an at, but you can also have ones that are like, hey, above 9,000 but below 10,000. It will not display those. It will honor those. It does understand those, but it will only display, I believe, it's either the above or the below. So my rib, for instance, is a below 10 but above 9. So let me find my rib. Yeah, so here's my rib. So it's saying at or above 9,000, which is correct, but it's also at or below 10. It knows the at or below 10 as well. It just can't display it. So that's just a quirk of the system. You don't need to go in and fix it. It's not broken. It's not wrong. It will adhere to below 10 and above 9. It's only going to display the above, though. So just something to keep in the back of your mind when you're checking your points. So, all right. So now that our flight plan is in there, we could go over into, let's see, where do I change this guy to plan? Right here. So we can go into plan, and I'm going to get rid of the yoke for a moment just so I can see. And then we can step through this. Let me go back to the beginning. There we go. So here's Burbank. So as we go up, it'll run through the plan waypoint. Now here's something interesting. And I think this is because we have this manual termination. We have in a departure, you make a turn and then it's vectors until tiller. And so yeah, there's tiller. So that's in there just showing, hey, we don't know where you're going. We're going to have to just sync that up manually when we take off. So that's okay. Normally you would go, ooh, that's a problem, but it's actually okay. So we're making sure these all connect, and in general we're going the right direction. There's our top of descent, my jaw, and schism, my rib, my hip, my knee, my shin, all the things, all the way up to runway 30, and then there's the missed approach. Now, if we go up here to, let me go back to my rib for a second, because that's the one we talked about. And if we turn on constraint, you can actually see the constraint there. And again, it's only going to show you the 9,000 and above. So you have to kind of know there's also a 10,000 and below. But again, it's not an error, it's a quirk. So it's not a bug, it's a feature. So typically, and we'll come back to this. I would put those constraints on, but there's another place we're going to do that. So I'm going to leave that alone for right now. All right, so that's done. The next thing to do is the takeoff arrival stuff, which is part of the performance, which I think is next, actually. So yeah, so we've gotten the FMC as programmed as we can get it without doing the performance data. So let's go back over to the tablet, and we're going to go to the performance calculator. All right, so we can import aircraft information or SimBrief information. Now, if you're going to import aircraft, that's always the best way to go, but we're still boarding, so I'm not going to do that because we're going to get wrong weights. So I'm going to import from SimBrief. That way it brings in what it thinks we're going to have, not what we currently have on board the airplane. So it's done that. We can also import the live weather, and so it should have updated those things. And so we can just kind of verify that everything's right. So runway 15, it's got the length, it's got any takeoff shifts, it's got slopes, it's dry. We got flaps set to auto, anti-ice off. It says anti-skid, operative, sorry. I read that as inoperative for a moment. I guess you can't change that. Takeoff weight is showing 85,879. We can check that against the flight plan on the gross weight. And I've got 85,880. So that's, a pound different, so that's perfect. Wind is showing 180 at 6. That's consistent with what I saw earlier, and you can even see the imported METAR right here. 180 at 6, 10 mile viz, clear, temp 18, 13, 29901, and so on. So 18, there we go. I'm going to put this in inches of mercury because we're in America. And force toga, no. So it'll derate if we can. It's a short runway, so we'll see what it does with this. And then once we have all the information there, we can hit calculate, and it's going to give us all of our information. So it's giving us a V1 of 134, VR 134, V2 141. The flaps, flap up speed basically 175. Flex toga 42C, so we are going to flex. Trim 3.1, and let's see, flap 0. So we are going flap 0. So one of the things that is kind of goofy to this plane compared to almost any other airliner you fly is flap 0 for takeoff was pretty standard normal. Unless you got really short runway or you've got obstacle clearances you got to worry about, you're often going to get flap 0. So that is normal. So we are flap 0. We are going to derate a little bit. And you can see all the different information here. This is where we should get V1, this is where we should get V2, and all that. Now, you can export these speeds to the box. You can export your toga flex to the box, to the systems. I'm not going to do that because it's more fun to do it yourself. That's why we're here. We're trying to be pilots, not trying to do all the easy way out. So 34, 34, 41, and a 42 flex toga. So let's go 34, 34, 42, and then to do the flex, we're going to go over here to flex, and it's going to put the flex up, well, it's going to put it up here, I believe, but I don't see it. Oh, no, it's right here, I'm sorry. So there's the flex. So 17 degrees is what it is right now. We need 42. So it's the top knob here. We're going to spin this up to 42. There we go. So flex 42 is set. And that's all good. Alright, so that is our performance loaded. And I think if we go, yeah, so here we're seeing 86. Is that referencing? Are we still boarding? No. Come on, come back. Yeah, we are still ever so slightly boarding, so this may change again in a moment.
Boarding is complete.
Okay, well now it's complete. 87. So this says 37, 37, 42, which is interesting that it's actually different. Then see how they're shutting the doors? Yeah, 34, 34, 41. Actually, I put 42, didn't I? Yeah, it's fine. It's one knot. So yeah, kind of curious if that's different. But if we click that, it'll put your speed bugs on the standby speeds. So not sure why that's different. This number is pretty close, but those are a little different. But again, these are not going off of because a lot of your V1 speed anyway has a lot to do with the runway itself. So it doesn't know to take that into account. It's just a chart. So anywho, all right. So that's all set. We've got our performance loaded. Let me look at my little cheat sheet here. Performance and then pressurization. So that is going to be up top here. And we need to set the current landing altitude, which is the altitude we're at currently. So not our landing altitude. So 778 feet is where we are in Burbank. And so these are in 1,000 foot, so it's not going to be the most accurate thing in the world. So we are going to go to roughly, we'll call it there. All right. And then the pressurization control is in auto, so it's gonna do all of that stuff on its own. But we just need to tell it. That way, if we had to come back here, it would know where to pressurize to. When we get to cruise, we will change this to Oakland's landing rate. So, all right. So that's set pressurization, and then window heat. So the window heats come on. That's the left and right here. We leave the vanes and the pitos off for right now. And then we go down to the EFIS. And so typically we would set constraints and traffic. Also, they recommend 15B. Again, I don't know what the B stands for. That's 15. Oh, first of all, let's go back to map here. Let me see if I can see what's... Oh, I see. So 15B is like more of a centered deal. These are 15B centered, and then 15, 30, these are the straight out in front of you guys. So I guess they recommend doing it this way for the takeoff. Better situational awareness, I guess. So for that. So once we set the EFIS, then we come over to the autopilot. We're going to be cruising at 32,000. So we're going to set 32. Again, if you were on a ATC, you would set whatever the initial climb clearance they gave you, but we don't have ATC, so we don't have to worry about that. What is the runway heading for us? 155. So we'll go ahead and set 155. You can change your... So we have a bank limiter here under autopilot, normal, 15 and 25. So that's the outer ring here. So just FYI, if you want different bank angles. Normally you want to make sure this is set on normal, not V2. And then we can set our kind of first constraint speed, which, let's see, do we have any constraint speeds? Maintain at or below 250 unless otherwise directed by ATC. So no. So it's really just 250. So I'm just going to go ahead and set 250 in the box for this. Alright, so that is set. And let's see, after the... Oh, and then obviously don't forget to turn on your flight directors as part of that. So, and why did the heading go away? Did that happen when I tweaked that? No. Odd. Alright. Also, be aware, the flight director switch you have on in the middle, but then hitting it up will toggle between flight director and flight path vector. So if you want to get the flight path vector stuff, you can do that. Just be aware that's what that is. Then standby altimeter after that. So we'll uncage that guy, or cage it. Boom, right there. That is set. And then we want to set the baro, which we saw earlier was 29901. So I'm going to set 29901, and those are linked, so that's nice. And then the TRP, which we actually already did because we did that with performance. So we just verify we are on flex, and it's set to 42. That is correct. Transponder, right below that. So you could do a test of the transponder, which is probably a good idea. And make sure we get all of our little characters on there. Show on the transponder, you show the traffic resolution advisories on the PFD there, as well as on the vertical speed. Pass on the test. Excellent. So we don't have ATC today. I'm just going to go ahead and throw 2000 in there since we're IFR technically. Now you can also do this ATC FID switch. There we go, FID. And then you can put your actual call sign in here. Maybe. It said we could do this. Why can't I not do this? ATC FID. Huh. Well, ain't that odd. Does it have to put it in the transponder? No. Huh. The manual says I can do this. the tutorial says to do this. Interesting. Uh-huh. Okay, well, maybe that is a odd bug they have to squash. So there you go. Maybe we found a bug. So we'll just go with the... It's not important, but we'll go ahead. You could put your flight number. So you put AAL683 in our case. We'll just leave the transponder code in there. So we'll go ahead and move that to transponder at this point, because we will be pushing here in a second. They have closed the doors. And make sure we're on transponder 1. And then once we push back, we usually switch that to TARA at that point. All right. moving on. Transponder. Next is the weather radar. And this is just, we're not going to turn it on yet. I guess technically it is in kind of an on state, but this thing is. So you want it either weather or weather terrain. I'm going to put in weather terrain. And then you want to make sure the tilt for takeoff is about 5 degrees up. So we're just really verifying these are all set correctly. And then I think, when did I don't remember turning that on, but maybe I did. Oh yeah, here's the, so by keeping the weather radar off is actually the off switch, and then turning this up will turn it on. So we won't do the brightness on this guy until we get to the runway, because we don't want to irradiate any crew, because that would be bad. So yeah. Alright. And with that is pretty much done and dusted. Now what we can do is, you have these little handy dandy checklists right here, which is kind of cool. And on the side here, it will scroll between them. So we have our power-ups, so we can kind of go through here and make sure we didn't miss anything. So circuit breakers checked, they're not really modeled. Fuel levers, we did confirm they were shut. LG selected, that's the landing gear, it is down. Batteries are on, external power APU is on. IRSs are in nav. Emergency lights are armed and exterior lights are set. So we did all those things. And then pre-flight emergency equipment, that would be like the crash X, fire extinguisher, stuff like that. It's not really realistic for a sim, but we'll say we checked it. Oxygen, we did check that. The MFDS, multifunction display switch, maybe? I'm not sure actually what that stands for. It might be the... It's probably something really obvious, and I'm an idiot. I haven't learned all the new acronyms yet, guys. Bear with me. I'm assuming it's on. Test panel, we did do that. The flight recorder is on. The aircraft documents, most sites, the flight plan is on board. Preparation, circuit breakers again, pins and covers, sure, oxygen, yes. Overhead panel check, main instrument panel check. Altimeters are set, pedestals check, parking brake is set. Fuel quantity is checked. We needed 11.8 or something like that, so that's 10, 8 and 8 is 16, so yeah, 11.6, something on there. Serviceability, we're good. Crew briefing is complete, sure. Let's go ahead and actually, let's do a little quick brief here, since we can, and that way you guys know what I'm doing, and I know what I'm doing, and it's always helpful to brief. So, we are... Actually, I'm going to turn that back off for a second and just make sure, because sometimes I'm just not sure. Okay, it is working good. All right, I can't see it when it happens, so I don't want to make sure. So here's the chart for Burbank. We're sitting down here at gate Alpha 2. We're going to be going off runway 15. So we're going to push back nose to the left, and we're going to taxi across down here to Delta 1. We'll cross 26, take Delta Alpha all the way up to the end here, and we'll take off runway 15, 6,886 feet of runway. We've got 134, 134, 142 is our V speeds, flaps 0 departure, and it's a flex takeoff, 42 degrees set in the flex. We're doing the Rosie 2 departure, so we're going to take off, and then once we pass about 500 feet or so AGL, we're going to turn to 210 degrees and fly that until we're ready to vector ourselves, in this case to Tiller at or above 8,000 across Tiller, a Rosie at or above 9,000 across a Rosie, and then we are going to Corez. So it's Burke, and then Midway, and then Corez. Again, it said 250 at or below, unless otherwise directed by ATC. Top altitude on this SID is flight 230, but again, we don't have ATC, so we're just going to go all the way up. And once we pass 10,000, we'll go ahead and accelerate up to our climb speed. So no real issues here. Short runway, terrain kind of more behind us. We're going away from it and kind of toward the ocean, so, but densely populated. Any problems, obviously below 80 knots, we'll just stop. Anything after 80 knots, we'll only stop for catastrophic things, fire and loss of control, engine failures, stuff like that. And after V1, we gotta take it, because we don't have a lot of runway to stop. So it is what it is. All right. So all that is set, and so now we can say with confidence the briefing is truly complete. All right. They closed our doors, and they closed that door too. So look at that. Well done. We can go ahead and lock the flight deck door. And let's go over to our checklist here. So before starting, we need to turn the seatbelt sign on, obviously. So seatbelts will go on right there. We're going to turn the beacon on because we're about to move and start engines. So beacon needs to be on. Fuel pumps need to be on. So all the fuel pumps go across. We don't have any in the center tank, so you don't need to worry about any center tankage. That's nonsensy things such as that. APU is already running, so that's already set. And let's see here. So seatbelts, fuel panel set, window, and probe heat. Oh, they want probe heat on too. Okay, so probe heat comes on at engine start, I guess. All right. And let's see. Takeoff data. Yeah, we got that set. Transponder is in transponder mode. Windows and doors are closed. Arm slides announced, I guess. And beacon lights are on. Okay, so that's all good. Let me go over to the aircraft here. So we can go ahead and say arm doors.
Cabin crew, arm doors and cross check.
There we go. There's the arm doors call. All right. Now we're going to go, and there's one other thing. Was it here that we get it? It says takeoff CG 19.7, and I think we need to set, I think we just set the stab to be, oh, I guess I can't set it yet. I need hydraulic power, so. Okay, so we'll do that after we start. Okay, that's fine. I'm still building my interior, like what we do next kind of checklist, so. All right, so for engine start, let's go, well, actually, let me get us pushing back. So let's go GSX. Let's go for pushback and departure.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
Okay, I'm gonna start figuring this stuff out. So for engine start, it's quite simple. They're going to kill the packs for us automatically when we do this. We want to make sure engine starter is in normal. We're going to turn the engine starting system on, and then we simply hold to 2 or 1 briefly. You don't have to hold it the whole time, and we'll see the engine start to spin up. I'm going to turn on the secondary instruments here, and we're waiting till around 20% N2.
Departure checks completed.
Oh, that was the one of these was you click this and they talk to the thing. I don't know. Is the FO set to handle the comms? Oh, he is. Okay, so maybe I don't need to worry about it then. That may have just been the cabin ready alarm. It's not actually a alert for us. It's kind of what it sounded like. So we're going to wait until they hook us up here. Oh, here's the call. Nose to left.
Release parking brakes, please.
Alright, brakes are going off. That's this little guy here. I'm just going to hit my parking brake switch. Oh, you know what? The chocks are still on, aren't they? There we go.
All engines clear. Start at will.
Okay, so we're good for engine start. So we're going to go ahead and select number 2 and then go outside and listen to the epicness. Wasn't that fantastic? Sounds are fantastic. All right, so we got a good start on engine number 2. We're going to go now start engine number 1. And again, if you notice the electrical panel, all these lights are out, which means the gen switch is already on. There's another call.
Cabin is secured.
Oh, there's a call from forward. Okay. So that one came through. I don't know what the first... There was a... Oh, that's a PA. Okay. So maybe it just dings because they're picking up the PA and starting to talk. That could be. Alright, the cabin is secured, so that's good. And, oh, I suppose it would help to put fuel in the engines.
Bypass pin removed. Left is clear. Right is clear.
Alright, I'm going to turn the dome light off. Nope. I thought that turned the dome light off. Well, that will. There we go. One way or another. Alright, there's our pin. So thank you, pin girl. And looks like we got a good start on engine number 1. So we're going to go ahead and turn the engine starter off. We can put this guy over to AC buses. We can see we got 115. We got good cycles. That's just load, so we just leave it in volts, I guess. Now remember, we're not going to do the flaps because we're flap 0. We do need to set this to 19 something something. So right in there, up thereabouts. I think something told me what it thought the trim should be. Maybe that was on... Oh, that was over here. That was in performance. Let me just kind of... 3.1. Is that close to where we're at? Yeah, actually so. So, yeah. So, that checks. Excellent. That little noise, the trim moving, the... I was on V1 stream today, and someone called it R2 Trim 2. I love it. I was like, you know what? That's fantastic. R2 Trim 2. So there you go. Okay, so let's take a look now and see if there's anything else we need to do here. Before taxi, anti-icing is off. We don't need it. It's warm. It's California. APU needs to go off. So we're going to go ahead and switch that to off. Whoops, nope. Let's see. APU alert lights are all out. Yes, they are. Flaps are set. Yes, they are. Trims are set. Ground equipment is removed. And taxi out. Nav systems are set. The FMP is set. That's the flight mode panel. That's this guy up here. Think MCP or other things for Boeing. Fuel levers are open. Lift dumpers armed. So that's those guys right there. Armed lift dumpers. Transponder. Oh, that's right. We need to go to TARA now. Again, there's no traffic, so it doesn't matter. But and flight controls. Do we have the ability to see? And it doesn't look like it. Okay, so we're just gonna... Oh, look at that. I moved the flight controls. Nothing happened. You know why? Haha. There we go. There's that. That's why we do these things. So left, right, forward, backward, and left, and right. This does have the option for split tiller, so meaning tiller separated from the rudder axis. So if you have a tiller axis, make sure you uncheck the rudder controls tiller there, so that way your tiller will control the tiller and your rudders will only control the small amount of nose wheel steering that comes with the rudder pedals. So with that, we are all set. We're going to arm nav and prof or profile, and that's going to get us set up to go. And we are all set. Now, there's an option to have a separate taxi light. We do not have that, so on this version of it then, the center one becomes the taxi, and these guys just are landing. So we'll put those to extend, we're not going to turn them on. And we're going to do auto on the strobe. We'll turn it on when we get to the runway. And I think we're all set. I think. So let's go ahead and kill the brakes. And let's taxi out here. Just Flight does such an amazing job of modeling these aircraft. The sounds are phenomenal. The aircraft taxis really well too, I have to say. I know you're thinking I'm just started moving, but remember I did take this around for something earlier, so I have done this a little bit before. So this is we're going to go across here. Now normally we'd want to make sure we're announcing all of this, but again, since we're the only ones here in an empty world, we can do whatever we want. We're going to cross over 26, we're going to go over here and go up toward 15. Now, something I do want to check, I saw someone make a mention of this in the in V1's chat today, and I have not corroborated it, so it could just be some random ridiculousness. So take it with a grain of salt. I'm going to look into it because I'm curious. I'm also going to put this down out of the way. Could also turn it off if I want to. I'm not doing it right now. But that was he made mention that they only would use idle reverse for landing unless there was a really short runway or an emergency. Otherwise, they wouldn't use anything besides idle reverse. And that came about, according to this poster, because TAM, the airline, I guess, did some maintenance tracking and discovered that there was a chance. I don't know how they determined this. I don't know if it happened and it happened more than once or something. But there was, according to this, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, and that's why I'm not entirely sure this is true. But it's something to do with, like, there was a chance that by using full reverse or using anything beyond idle reverse was potentially damaging the engines to the point, like, it was like cracking blades of some kind. Which, again, all you're doing is blocking. You're blocking and redirecting air after the nozzle of the engine. So the air is moving through the engine as per normal. So I'm not sure I get where that would be happening. I'm not an engine. I don't work for an engine manufacturer or do maintenance on these things, so I really have no kind of place to judge, I guess, because I don't know. But from my layman's understanding of how engines work, it doesn't seem to make sense to me. So, who knows? Alright, so at this point, takeoff is fairly standard. We're going to arm, just like we would in a 737, we're going to arm the auto throttle system, and then we're going to spool the engines up on the runway to 1.3 EPR, which we can see right here. Right now we're at 1.6, 1.7, 1.16 rather, 1.17 EPR. And then at that point hit the toga switch. Now again, you can hit the toga switch here. You can use a mapped toga switch in your flight sim, which I have on my hardware. Or you can also hit this little screw right here. That is the secret toga button if you don't have something mapped. So those are your options. We have RTO set, so if we get above, I think it's 50 knots, I think it is, and we suddenly reduce to idle, then the RTO kicks in, the automatic brakes, the lift dumpers, if they're armed right here, will deploy and help to stop the airplane. Obviously, we can deploy reverse thrust at that point, as necessary, depending on how fast we're moving. Below that speed, though, RTO doesn't come into play. So if you just abort, then you're just, it's on you to brake and do all the things. So. All right, we're coming onto the runway here, so we're going to go to spoilers on. We're going to turn on the landing lights. We're going to ding the cabin to tell them we are ready to go.
Cabin crew, seats for takeoff, please.
There we go, and the first officer comes on and says the thing. Probably should have done it a little earlier. It's fine. It's fine. Alright, not the longest runway in the world, so we're going to hold brake while we get up to a 1.3 EPR and make sure we're stable. So we're going to arm the auto throttle system right there. And then we're going to run our throttles up to 1.3 EPR. Or at least 1.3 EPR. There we go. One side anyway. Try to match them. 1.32, that works for me. Toga. And they're not moving. Interesting. Why are you not moving? Something else we did? No. Okay, well, it's 1.6. It worked, well, they ran up last night. Oh, I hit the secret screw. Oh, so now my toga switch isn't activating right. Okay, that's my hardware. I gotta fix that. Okay, now all makes sense. You want to have forward pressure on the yoke all the way basically to V1. Keep that nose wheel on the ground. Got a lot of weight on the tail.
V1, rotate.
And off we go.
Positive climb, gear up.
Gear up. Notice that handle turns color to show that the gear is in transition, which is kind of cool. That will go off once the gear goes up and off. And we'll follow that flight director now that we're above. And you will find it needs quite a bit of left or right aileron to get yourself turning. So pretty sure that is fairly correct. I was talking to a friend of mine who flew the Fokker IRL. And said it does fly very well, very close to the actual guy. So says climb thrust. Is it going to go there on its own? It should. We're in profile. Yes. Again, don't judge too harshly on my hand flying skills in this aircraft. This is literally the second flight I've done and the first time I've done anything beyond just visually flying around. So it's just trying to accelerate us up to 250 knots at the moment, so we're not climbing really. But in a moment we're going to be. Here we go. Now you have, as very helpful, this little pink line here that's coming up and below. That is your speed trend vector. So you can actually just kind of, aside from just aiming at the flight director, you can kind of keep an eye on that and see, is my speed tending to increase, tending to decrease, or staying static? And that can help you fly the correct angles. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to knock on the autopilot here, just because. And we're going to go ahead and go direct to tiller now. So direct. And we are going to go to, oops, too far, tiller. And there we go. We're going direct tiller. So we're hearing the PA call right now. We could turn that up, probably hear it louder if we wanted to. But they stopped talking, so I have no idea. I have no idea. A little action shot. We are out of here. Alright, we can take a look at the after takeoff checklist here. Oh, we should have done before takeoff checklist. But we really did all those things already. So it's just altimeters and the MFDS. So I'm wondering if the MFDS is really this down here. For anything that you need to be aware of. Or status. It's probably one of those, is my guess. Unless it's this guy. But I'm thinking it's one of those two. But we don't need to just touch the altimeters until 18,000 feet. So on the PFD here, you can see the modes in green are in use. So we have climb, basically indicated airspeed, nav, and then alt is in blue, signifying that it is kind of in like an armed state. So we're profile to that altitude. So when we reach that, that should go green, I believe. Time will tell. So there's 10,000 feet. We're going to ding the cabin. We're going to turn the seatbelt, not seatbelt, we're going to just ding the cabin rather. The lights will go off though. So now you see the aircraft is accelerating. See that little pink trend vector? It's we got a new target right there for right around just above 280 knots for climb. So it's going to climb us. It's going to reduce our climb rate so we can accelerate to that, and then it will start to pitch up again once we hit that target. You can slide the sun visors around on either side. And do they go all the way around? No. So they stop right there. Okay. But there's a captain's one over here. So we put the sun visor on. I just want to see how far it goes. Oh yeah, that's pretty helpful. Okay. So we'll put it right there where the sun is, kind of realistically. And you can see our climb rate is gone back up again as we've passed that little caret. I'm going to go through the door because I don't want to unlock it because it would be, but we can look back here at the galley, and so we can turn some galley lights. Actually, is it because... no, those are all on. Oh, I bet they're being managed automatically. That's probably why. Okay. But let's see, work light. No, okay. So we can turn the coffee pots on. So you do that. It's power on, ready when lights out. So it's brewing or doing whatever. It says low water, which is interesting. I don't know if that the white light means low water or lever position, open hot water tap. Both lights will illuminate when amber light goes out. The unit is ready to withdraw water from hot water tap. Okay. So anyway, that's kind of cool. You can do coffee brewing. This is kind of cool though. Check this out. So you got these 3 ovens right here, right? And we can activate them. So I can turn the ovens on, and I can do a timer, and that timer counts down, and then like dings when it gets to the time. I don't know what the temp one does aside from just turn a temp light on, but that thing is slowly clicking down. So you could like come back here and be like, I'm gonna like heat stuff up in the galley, and I just think it's super cool. So anyway, just little touches. They didn't model the bathrooms, but they modeled the ovens. I mean, it's like kind of cool. So let's see. It's when the light goes out. I do know that we had the option to refill the water and there was a place to check the water, the potable water, on the bay. I don't remember if we ever got that on the F-28. So I'm curious if the low water is because we need to top off the potable water tank, or if that goes red and it's this white normally, or I don't know. Let's check the tablet here and see if there's any options for water things. I don't think there is. Yeah, I don't see it anyway. Not that we'd be able to tweak it now. So yeah, I don't know about that. Alright, 16,500. We're doing ground speed of 370. And I need to set up some more views for this, but there was... Yeah, so like we could do... Like that's a cool view right there. You can see that the guy's spinning in there, a little bit of the wingtip. That's actually a really cool view. Yeah, some nice views. This one, the American livery, I guess it was an option. They opted not to have the logo light. So that little panel right there, and there's one on the other side, is where the logo light would be that shines up on the tail. And now I can trigger that back in place if I want, because that's just a setting in here. So logo lights right there. And then if we go back... The fastest way to get back here is to do this right now because I don't have anything set up for it. If we go back here, you can now see there's the logo light. And I think above, it's above 10,000, that automatically shuts off. I think is what it is. There's I-5 down there. And that is, what was that, Quail Lake or something like that, I think? It's part of the California Aqueduct. It actually comes up after the Edmondson pumping station here and then splits. And this one goes and heads off to Pyramid Lake and Castaic. And the other side goes down the backside of the San Gabriel's here. And eventually crosses over through some more pumping stations into the LA basin and goes to Lake Matthews and Lake Paris. Why do I know these things? I don't know. I don't know, but I know things. Alright, so we need to go ahead and set standard, which is, you know, way different than what we had. It's a short flight, we're above 20,000 feet and the air is stable, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off seatbelt signs.
Ladies and gentlemen, the captain has turned off the fasten seatbelt signs. You are now free to roam about the cabin. However, for your comfort and safety of those around you, we recommend keeping your seatbelt fastened whenever you are seated.
So we're going up to 32. Again, it's not, you know, the most powerful jet, so it's going to take its sweet little time to get up there. So, again, I haven't had enough flight. This is SimBrief gave me 32, so we'll see if it actually can get up there before we have to start coming back down. As we got just over 10,000 to go at this point. But this is a fun airplane. If you've ever thought that the F-28 would be fun, but you know, there was no, I mean, they did give us, I think, the UNS nav at some point, but mostly it was very rudimentary, very hands-on, no auto throttle. I don't think it has an auto throttle, yeah. And kind of old school nav. And so I know that's intimidating for a lot of people. So, but if you ever thought that would be kind of a fun airplane, but were intimidated by some of those factors, then this guy's going to be for you. And I would imagine the F-70 is quite a bit sportier, just because it's the same engines, but you know, less weight, less fuselage, same wings, but you know, same wings, same engine, but smaller footprint. So that tends to translate to sportiness. Let's go back, see if that coffee brew is ready. Ah, lights out. Yeah, okay. So, so light is out. So that's what light out looks like, I guess. So that probably becomes something with one. So if we do this, it made noise before, but I wonder if you just can't hear it because the engines are too loud. Yeah, I don't hear anything now. Yeah, last time you did this, you actually could hear like a pouring sound. So I'm not sure what's up with that, but anywho. I think what we'll do is we'll kick it there, and then we'll come back at top of descent and rejoin the action. So you don't need to sit through all the boring climb and cruise stuff. So we'll see you in a bit. All right, welcome back on board the Fokker 100 service from Burbank to Oakland. We can see our top of descent here coming in just a little under 40 miles now, as we are on the star. Technically, we're still at flight level 320, but now that we're at this point at cruise, there's a few things we should do. One is we need to set the landing altitude to be the local field where we're going to be landing at. So that is about, it's basically sea level, it's 9 feet. So we're going to move this down to the basically the 0 bar there, and that way the aircraft will auto do its thing when it starts to go down. The other thing we can do now, if we know it, which in our case we do, is the ILS frequencies and stuff that we need. So 1087 is runway 30 at Oakland. So if we come down here to the ILS head, so we're looking for 10830, oh sorry, 10870, I can't read. 10870, and it's 296 is the course. Whoops, that goes fast. 296, there we go. So that is set in. You also need to change this. So we have approach and we have VOR. So VOR is when we're not on, and approach is when it's when it says approach. That gives us the localizer and the glide slope indication. This isn't arming the approach mode. This is simply telling the computers here we want to display the ILS information. If we want to actually do the localizer and all that kind of stuff, I believe that's done here. Now it says VOR localizer and land. So there we go. So there's the, this would capture the localizer, this would do the whole kit and caboodle. So some SOPs have you do this until you capture the localizer and then arm land. Most aircraft won't capture the glide slope if the localizer isn't already captured. At least newer aircraft won't. I don't know if this one will or not. So that's usually where that SOP comes from, because you don't want to start descending if you're not within the protected zone of the localizer. And so that's why that SOP exists, is you don't want to start descending on the glide slope if you're outside that protected zone, then you potentially hit an obstacle, so that would be bad. The other thing, from what I understand reading the manual, I haven't tried this yet, so we're going to try it together, is as long as we're in profile and we spin this guy down, once we hit our top of descent, it should start to descend us on profile, I believe. So the bottom of the star is 6,200 at my shin, So I'm going to put us down to 6,200. Now, we technically could go all the way down because there's no ATC to tell us otherwise, but just for some sake of normalcy here, I'm going to do that. So looks like we're just within 20 miles now of top of descent. We can see the blue alt box there in addition to the green one. So we're holding altitude, but we have an armed altitude. That tells me that we should be good considering we're on profile. So that should be okay. We'll also go ahead and do auto brake to low because we got a lot of runway and this thing does slow down pretty well with the reverse and the lift dumpers. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We notice lift dumpers are no longer armed. Those disarm themselves shortly after takeoff. So we will arm those again when we get close. But we can look here on our descent checklist. So we would want to confirm our terrain clearance and FS position. We can assume that's good. The weather radar, you know, we never did turn the weather radar on. That was something we never did. So I'm going to go ahead and spin that up. There's no, it's California. We don't believe in weather here. I'm going to go ahead and tilt this down, though, 5 degrees now, since we're at cruise and we're going to be going down. It makes more sense to have that thing tilted down. So we're going to do that. And then MFDS again. I'm guessing it's one of these guys. And approach preparation. So we've kind of done that. We've assigned the ILS. We've turned on the approach mode, and all the things. So the other thing we can deal with is decision height. I believe that's what this screen is right here. So we've got a couple of different options. We have a decision altitude or a decision height. I always like the decision height because then you're just talking height above the ground. It's usually around like 200, 250, something like that. And if I look at the chart right here, it looks like for a Cat 1 ILS, it is indeed 200. So I'm going to go ahead and spin that to 200. I just don't like having to deal with big, large baro numbers. And granted, at Oakland, you're not going to have that, but still. So we'll set that to 200. And did we just pass? Oh, here goes the vector. We are not going down. That's just level change. That's not... So something... Something didn't jive. I'm going to go ahead and go level change, and we're going to get that back. And then I'm going to switch back to profile and see what happens. But I am curious. So there was something clearly we were supposed to, like, arm. So I'm not sure why you get the blue alt there if it's actually not going to capture. Again, I don't think that's the plane. I think that's me not understanding the autopilot because I only read through it once, and that was earlier today. So now I'm going off of really bad memory. So let's not blame the plane for this. I think this is on me. But thankfully we were watching it, so we could kind of stay on top of it and make sure we catch it in time. Here we go. Yeah, we're diving for it, so it's going to come into view here pretty dang quick. And we're going to switch up to profile there. Yep, shallowing our descent significantly. Now that we have started our descent, and now that we know it is descending on profile, so you know what? Here we go. See how it says descent? That's what we needed to have armed. It wasn't alt that needed to be armed. It was descent. So whatever we got to do to get that in the blue, I think that's what we were looking for. That jogs my memory a bit. So there was clearly something we were supposed to hit here, either up or down. I'm not sure which, to get us a descent arm, I think. So, anyway, let's go and look at some performance for the landing. So we're going to go over here to landing mode. And the arrival ICAO is KOAK. And we are going to be on 30. Braking action good. Auto brake, we're going to do low. Runway surface dry. Landing flap, we'll go with 42, full flaps. Let's go ahead and import the live weather. And we can look and just make sure 26010. Yeah, so it is importing the weather at Oakland and not the weather where we are currently, which would be bad. Again, I want inches of mercury, so 2994 once we get below 18,000. And all of that looks good. So now we can go to... Actually, hang on. Landing weight. Let me go import aircraft. Actually, you know what? That's based on what it is now, I think. And I think our landing weight predicted is 81,217. Yeah, so let me... 81,217. We're going to go with that because that is probably more likely correct. Alright, now we'll calculate. Alright, so even with all that, we got lots of runway here for what we have. So we're looking at a VREF of 125, the V approach 130. And yeah, landing data, it looks like landing required, I think is what that is. Like, yeah, LDR 25. This is the plus like an extra form factor. So this is what it thinks we'll need. This is like in a horrible worst case scenario or something. So yeah, we're looking at like 4,300 feet basically out of a total of like 10,520. So, because this is landing available, landing required. And then if I remember from the Mad Dog stuff, it's like landing required plus a factor of something. And I forget how that's calculated, but it doesn't matter. So anyway, but this is the important numbers we need right here, is 130 and 125, VREF and V approach. That's what I really care about. So, and so we can go over here to the data. Can I change these numbers? No. This is landing and takeoff data. This is going to give me up to flaps. Yeah, how do I get to the... I guess VREF. I was over here. I see. So that's saying 127. This is saying 125. But I think that's because this is accounting for our weight as it currently stands, not what our weight is expected to be at landing. So it seems we have lost the profile again, and I'm guessing that is because we have a speed issue. So let me see if that guy will come out. Yes, he will. So this the speed brake will only deploy if the throttles are below a certain point. So I think it's going to lock itself back in here in a second. Yep, see there, it went back in as the speed came back up. So it's kind of a self-defeating thing because I'm trying to get it to the 280 carat, and you're sitting here. So you got to kind of trick it so it doesn't keep accelerating through the gate, because then it speeds right back up again. It's not the smartest thing. And in talking with the guy that actually flew this plane, the VNAV on this it's fairly rudimentary. It's not as nearly as advanced as you're going to find on like the Phoenix A320, the PMDG 737, because this was an older aircraft. So don't think the VNAV is going to be like spot on perfect all the time. It's probably not. And that's the way it really was. It was a tool, but not a perfect tool. Let's go ahead and ding the flight attendants here.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will shortly be arriving at our destination. Please ensure that your seatbelt is securely fastened. Your seat back and tray table are in the...
Oh yeah, see, I can change the volume of the PA. That's nice. I like that. Then you can turn it completely off. You just click it. That's nice. Okay, so what's our speed supposed to be right now? 280. Okay, so we're above it. It's not doing a great job of holding the speed. We are supposed to be at 240 at my rib and also between 10 and 9,000, so we're coming up on that pretty quick. I'm going to go ahead and extend all of these. That'll actually provide some extra drag. Not much, but some. Oh, and we need to set 29 under 4. Because we are decidedly below transition. That speed brake is effective. Yeah, it constantly wants to high, like, it feels like it wants to maintain like 20 knots above the carrot, which is odd. Although it's finding itself now a little better, but of course that's because it doesn't have to descend as fast. And that was part of the issue. But it looks like we're going to make our crossing restriction here, so that's good. Barely. That is pretty right there. Dang. It is a beautiful jet. It's like flying a DC-9. Or a 717. Alright, we're gonna go landing lights on. "7,000 feet will tell the flight attendants to take their seats. So we're gonna say all call.
Cabin crew, please set your seats for landing.
And we're coming up on the end of the star, so I'm gonna bug this down.
Cabin is secured for arrival.
All right, there we go. Cabin secure. Bug it down to 15. And I want to see if it keeps going down once we get to my shin, or if we have to activate something again. Well, it looks like it's going to keep us going down, so that's good. Looks like we might be picking up the localizer there. I'm going to go ahead and arm localizer. So when we get it, we get it. Oh, and there's the glide slope now. See what it says about the speed limitations of the flaps here. So it looks like for flaps 8, 250 is the max, 15 through 25 is 220, and then 42 is 180. Okay, so that's some nice things to remember. So 250, 220, 180. So we could definitely go ahead and do flaps 8. So let's go ahead and do that. Just to hep it. Man, we could actually do flaps all the way to 25 if we wanted to with our speed range, but I don't want to get too slow yet. Because it's knocking us down to try and go 160 already. I don't know if there's a way to speed intervene without taking it out of the vertical profile. I don't know. Let's see, what was the approach checklist? Seatbelts, they're on. Approach settings, checklist set. Crew briefing, yeah. Altimeter's set. So the landing is going to be cabin warned, which we already did. Altimeter set, that's already done. Misapproach altitude we'll get once we get the localizer and all that stuff established. Gear down, lift dumpers armed, and flap set. Okay. Yeah, the big three are the gear, dumpers, and flaps. So we should be intercepting this any moment, and we're like right on the glide slope, so I think as soon as we see that guy come in, I'll go ahead and switch over to land. Oh, there it goes. So I'm waiting for Loke to go armed, or to go, there we go, there's Loke. We'll go land, and there's glide slope. Landing into the sun. Alright, we are established on the ILS, runway 30. Another notch of flaps. So that's flaps 15. Let's go ahead and arm the lift dumpers. And we can also set the missed approach altitude now, which is missed approach, 4,000. Okay, that's set. Alright, we now have control of the speed, so it's not going to do it anymore. We're 10 miles out. So in a moment here, we'll knock that down to our approach speed, which is 130.
Speed checked, gear down.
Yep, we're doing it. Don't worry. So there's 130. Gear down. Flaps 25.
Speed checked, flap 42.
There's the runway there. And it's ready for flap 42. And I forget where the flap indicator is. I know we obviously the handle is here, but I feel like there's somewhere inside tells us what the flap is set to. I don't know where. I'm sure it's somewhere. But it's for another time, I guess. Just gonna keep that right there. It's kind of in a funky place with the runway coming up. We got a radio altimeter right there, so it's a 1200 and dropping 1150. Typically, I like to kick out the automatics at around 1,000 feet. Let's go taxi light on now. And there's 1,000 feet, so we'll do AP disconnect, auto throttle disconnect. You gotta be careful here with the trend vector on the speed because a lot of that could be reacting to the wind. And you get fooled thinking you're going a lot faster than you really are, but ground
500.
speed isn't changing that much. So.
$100 above.
Glide slope.
Minimums. $100. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Ooh, nice.
Reverse.
And reverse engaged.
$60 knots.
We'll take the high speed. A little early on the high speed. Weren't quite to 60 knots yet, but that's fine. That was pretty nice. I landed a lot better than I did when I took it last night. Of course, I had a full approach to do. Last night I kind of just flew by the seat of my pants. All right. Let's see here. Lift dumpers should have disarmed on their own. Looks like they did. Let me see if they're... Yep, they're back in. They will collapse back when you take the reversers out. So we'll go ahead and raise the flaps back up. We're going to get the APU on. So that's starting. Landing lights go off. Leave the taxi light one on. weather radar will kick off. Oh, there's that music again. It's going to get me some kind of a weird...
Please remain seated with your seatbelt. Aircraft has come to a complete stop, and the seatbelt sign has been turned off. Use caution when opening overhead bins, as items may have shifted during the flight. On behalf of the entire crew, we would like to thank you for flying with us today, and we wish you a safe onward journey.
Now, maybe it's quiet enough I can talk over it and it won't give me problems. Hopefully, anyway. That's not where I wanted to go now. I don't think. Maybe it was. Oh, no, yeah, I want to go further down. Usually when I come to Oakland, I'm flying the 727 and doing cargo, so that's the one I want to go in, but not today. Alright, so we can go ahead and turn our flight directors off. And that can go back to off there. I'm going to set the trim back up here to 0 where it was. I don't know if that's the standard location to put it for the next flight, but it works for me. Alright, while we're taxiing in here, we could do a fancy GSX parking select here. We'll use Southwest, sure, why not? This is getting close to the gate I flew out of to go to Hawaii about a month and a half ago. Once we park at the gate here, I'll go ahead and turn the time down a little bit so you guys can see the lighting in here. You guys already kind of get a little bit of a feel for what it's looking like, but we want a little bit of a more obvious nighttime view here to see what the lighting, because it does look absolutely fantastic. So I think that went pretty well. I need to find out if there's ways, one, to speed intervene, and what the method is for that, and then two, I need to refine the proper method of altitude capture for the descent, for top descent, because I know it does do it, I just didn't do it right. So, but I think those are the main things that I didn't really have down. That and whatever that MFDS or whatever thing is, I gotta figure that out. Gate 29. I think we took off. I think we were out of gate 30, right next to it there. Yeah. Alright, parking brake set. And let's see. Yep, that's available, so we're going to go ahead and cut the engines.
Cabin crew, door to manual and cross check.
Seatbelts off. That goes off. Beacon goes off. We've got a jetway this time. This is going to be jetway. We're going to say start deboarding. And it's going to empty us out of all the peoples. We can unlock the flight deck now. And open that up. And obviously I'm not using GSX for the people stuff, so it's just random noises and stuff, so we don't really hear anything. But there we go. There she blows. Safe and sound, Oakland. And we did it. She is fun to fly. And once you get the procedures down, it's not hard to fly either. It's not nearly as bad as the F-28. And I say as bad. I love the F-28, quite frankly, but like I said, a lot of people are intimidated by it. So, all right. So I did want to show you the night lighting here in the flight deck, and to do that, I had to kind of warp to a different part of Oakland because with the terminal lights, it was kind of washing out the cockpit. So here's a good look at the night lighting. Here in the Fokker, you can see with the backlighting and the dome lighting on, we get quite a good amount of light in here, and we can kind of see what that looks like without. If we turn the dome light off, we can turn the backlighting off here, so you can kind of get a look at the just the panel lights as they stand. And these are not at full bright, so I can brighten these up a little bit more. And so there you get a good idea of what that looks like as well. There's the pedestal backlighting. So that's the lighting in the cockpit for the most part. There is, again, a good amount of lighting coming in from the cabin. You can see here too, which is kind of cool. So cabin lighting is controlled, like I said, right here. We can turn cabin lights off. We can turn cabin lights on. And we can even see the difference when I close the door. When I find the handle there. Actually does make a little bit of a difference of glowing light in the flight deck. So you get a little bit of light coming in from there as well. Let's see here. Yeah, see up top, especially is where it's really evident. So you have this whole thing is lit up basically from the light coming in from the cabin, which is kind of cool. So no, the lighting looks absolutely fantastic, and you have a lot of control over how much lighting you want and where. And the dome light primarily illuminates this kind of back part here, because the dome light's up here. So it doesn't do a ton for the front of the... so if we turn this down, again, the glare shield in reality would be blocking a lot of this light, so it makes sense. So yeah, the dome light itself doesn't do a ton except for the back part of it. But yeah, really nice lighting in the Fokker. So anyway, just wanted to give you guys a chance to see that. So that is the Fokker 100. We're going to end it there. That is our first look. I will be back at some point with a actual tutorial. This was more of a first look and kind of help you get started. Not sure when this is releasing. At the time of recording, it is Sunday night, the 21st. So I believe it's supposed to be sometime later this week. But again, that's up to Just Flight, and depending on what they find and do and whatever. So you can catch me streaming over at Twitch, twitch.tv/Mustafa. And I usually stream about 3 times a week, usually Thursday, Friday, Saturday over there. Obviously, if you've found this video, you're on my YouTube channel already. But would love a like and a follow if you don't mind, if you're not following the channel already. Or sorry, a like and a subscribe. Thinking of Twitch things now. But yeah, and you can also follow me on Instagram, FlyingMoose83 on Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook, same handle, FlyingMoose83. Twitter or X, I believe, is also FlyingMoose83. But I'd love to see you come and join in on a live stream at some point over on Twitch. It's absolutely free. There's no paywall or anything like that. It's just come and join. And join the Discord too. Link in the description below. You can ask questions there and get information on stream schedules and all kinds of things. A lot more activity and conversation going on in the Discord all the time, and a lot of friendly people over there, including myself. So that's going to do it for me. Hope you enjoyed this beautiful Fokker 70/100 when it releases. In the meantime, again, big thanks to Just Flight for providing me with the pre-release copy. And one last time, caveat, this is a pre-release copy, so anything you saw that was weird or didn't work, or even something that maybe looked unfinished, may or may not be rectified at the time of major release. And they'll be updating it as they find more bugs and things. Once it gets released to the public, there's always bugs and everything, and then they find them and they squash them. So, anyway, until next time, take care.